opportunity. You've been in the industry doing discovery, managing teams for almost last 10 years now. And the last 5 years, you've been with the CJK Group. But prior to that, you've been involved with a lot of different types of reviews, good and bad. What have you learned in the industry, and what do you think the industry does well, and what do you think it lacks when it comes to e-discovery of multi-language reviews?
Now, prior to my time with CJK, I worked with quite a number of different agencies on an independent basis, and the standard model within particularly in Japanese language e-discovery, is to have a product manager who almost never speaks Japanese. They usually only speak English. More often than not, they were an attorney, but sometimes we had experiences where the project manager was a human resources person who had no legal background and was not an attorney. So there's a couple of different ways in which project managers can be divided in terms of how they're done. Probably the most common, I would say, within the e-discovery industry right now in the United States is the attorney non-Japanese speaker. So the only English-speaking attorney. So there are considerably more attorneys in the United States that speak only English and do not speak Japanese, and so from a cost perspective, I think that's definitely going to be a lower cost option, and so that has its own advantages. However, part of the problem with having an English-only speaking project manager is the extent to which the project manager is unable to provide their own assessments of their own reviewers, their own subordinates, and be able to assess how well they're doing, as well as providing firsthand analysis of the types of documents that the review team is finding and be able to provide them to the litigating firm. So these are two separate issues, and I'm going to go through them one by one. So the first issue, the ability to assess the reviewers, is something that often is taken for granted because it's so easily done within an English review, but becomes very difficult for a project manager that doesn't speak the language the documents are written in. If a reviewer is tagging documents, since the project manager is unable to read those documents, they need somebody else to look at those documents and tell them if they're coded correctly. When they do that, they have to pick somebody on the team who's capable of doing it. But they have no way of themselves verifying how accurate that person conducting the quality control is. If they pick somebody good, this can work itself out pretty well, because if the person that they picked is a competent and good attorney that also has a strong grasp of both cultural and legal issues and is able to read the language perfectly, then there's not as much of a problem. The risk happens when the person chooses a person who doesn't have those attributes. Reliance on choosing a team lead whom the English-speaking project manager is unable to properly assess is one major problem that exists within that model, which is the standard model within American e-discovery for Japanese language.
So you mean that the standard model in the United States for handling multilingual reviews, let's just say Japanese since the one that you're talking about, is the model in which you just described. A lead of that team, in this case Japanese, is not fluent enough in that language, doesn't have the capabilities to truly lead the team, and has led a team, and that model is the dominant prevailing model in the industry.
That's right. I think it's actually rather rare for a company to provide a Japanese-speaking attorney to lead the projects. I don't know what the percentages are within the industry, but on almost every project that I've ever worked on outside of CJK, it was the case that the manager did not speak Japanese.